A man dies due to a god's mistake and is sent to a new world. He gives up all his memories in exchange for powerful skills. The goddess of reincarnation bids him farewell, telling him to have fun in his new life. Kelvin wakes up in the new world, confused and memoryless. A voice explains he was chosen randomly and that he agreed to forget his past life. He realizes he cannot remember anything and wonders what his past self was thinking. The voice describes this world of swords and magic and tells him to check his status. Kelvin sees his name, level, and rare abilities. He notes his class as summoner and realizes he must have been a dedicated gamer in his previous life. The voice advises him to start his adventure by going to the nearest town and registering as an adventurer. He asks if the voice will accompany him. A status screen reveals it belongs to Melfina, the goddess of reincarnation. They arrive at the town. Melfina explains that his past self asked her to become his servant, which she accepted. He learns he died due to a god's mistake, fell in love with Melfina, and traded his memories for more skill points. She reminds him of his promise to fall in love with her again, and Kelvin feels drawn to her. He asks if he can summon her, but Melfina says he does not have enough power yet. She expresses excitement to hear him say he loves her in the future. They approach the Adventurers Guild. Kelvin registers as an adventurer. He fills out the paperwork and hides his true class to avoid attracting attention. He receives his membership at rank F and learns the rules for taking jobs, ranking up, and contract penalties. He sees the available tasks and chooses to defeat blue slimes, aiming to summon his first companion in private. He buys a wooden rod and heads to the quest location. Using his appraisal ability, he examines the slimes and learns about their strengths. Melfina explains how to form a summoner contract. Weaken the monster without killing it, then initiate the bond. Kelvin fights a slime, surprised by its strength. After a struggle, he weakens it enough and initiates the contract, using half his remaining power. The contract succeeds, and he names the slime Clotho. He senses Clotho's feelings and learns that servants can communicate. He summons Clotho, then focuses on completing the quest. Clotho helps him defeat the remaining slimes, and Kelvin notices how strong Clotho is due to summoner enhancements. The task is completed successfully. Returning to the guild, Kelvin collects his reward. Melfina explains she provided only enough for starting equipment, encouraging him to grow independently. Kelvin heads to the Spirit Song Inn, recommended by receptionist at the guild. On the way, he sees a slaver with a beautiful half-elf captive. At the inn, he meets Claire, who prepares his room and dinner. Kelvin notices the lack of a bath, reflecting on differences from his old life. He eats, realizing he has not eaten since arriving in this world. Melfina encourages him to level up so she can join him in experiencing human food. As he rests, Kelvin reflects on his new life. His adventure has begun with Melfina, the goddess he can only hear, and Clotho, his first summoned companion. He resolves to make the most of the rare summoner abilities chosen for him before reincarnation. Kelvin and Clotho spend their days completing jobs from the guild, steadily growing stronger. His rare abilities grant him exceptional growth, and each level up brings numerous bonuses and skill points. From a wide selection of skills, he chooses concealment, aiming to reach rank B soon to live a safer and more peaceful life. Clotho gains a new skill as well, showing growth alongside his master. Kelvin is promoted to rank E adventurer. The receptionist, Ange, expresses concern over him taking higher-ranking jobs alone. Kelvin explains he does not need a party because Clotho is powerful, and keeping a party would reveal his summoner identity. Other adventurers in the guild hall notice his rapid rise and comment on how unusually strong he is for a beginner. Kelvin reassures Ange he will avoid danger and requests better equipment, then asks for a rank D job. Cashel, a notorious rank D adventurer, appears, suggesting Kelvin take on a Black Ghost Knight. Cashel has a reputation for hunting new adventurers and crushing them for experience. He invites Kelvin to join his party, but Kelvin declines, proposing a competition. He will face the monster alone while Cashel proceeds with his party. Kelvin plans to use the encounter to observe Cashel's actions. Cashel and his party, including Gimel and Raj, analyze Kelvin. Cashel notes that his appraisal cannot read Kelvin's status, indicating hidden strength. They prepare to confront him, eager for a challenge. Cashel arrives at the Wicked Spirit's castle to find the undead already defeated, confirming that Kelvin has defeated them all. Kelvin provokes Raj, binding him with a spell that creates a swampy terrain, hidden from Cashel's detection. Gimel senses danger and flees, while Clotho evolves into Slime Gluttonia, a massive and terrifying form. Clotho engages the remaining party members, defeating Gimel easily due to his low endurance. Kelvin attacks Cashel directly, exposing his strategy and calling out the unethical hunting of new adventurers. Cashel's party is incapacitated, leaving Kelvin ready to face the main target. Kelvin approaches the Black Ghost Knight, Gerard, a former human knight now transformed into a monster. Kelvin introduces himself as a summoner and seeks to form a contract. Gerard, surprised by Kelvin's approach, explains his past. As a captain of Alcarl, he protected his homeland, which was destroyed by the invading Lysia Empire, resulting in the death of his family. Gerard admits he became a monster while still clinging to his desire for vengeance and offers to serve Kelvin if he proves himself. The battle begins in earnest. Kelvin unleashes a combination of spells and Clotho's attacks, striking quickly and with strategy. Gerard reacts with remarkable precision, using his enhanced reflexes to evade and counter attacks. Kelvin adapts, creating traps, controlling terrain, and coordinating with Clotho. Gerard leaps, deflects, and withstands repeated assaults, showing his combat mastery. Kelvin uses a sequence of attacks that gradually limits Gerard's movements. Air pressure traps him temporarily, allowing Kelvin to coordinate the final assault. Throughout the battle, Gerard recalls his lost country, family, and the circumstances that led to his transformation. He realizes that vengeance has anchored him to this world, giving context to his strength. Kelvin recognizes Gerard's motives and respects his perseverance while maintaining focus on victory. Using precise timing and strategy, Kelvin and Clotho finally overwhelm Gerard. The immediate threat is over. The next day, Kelvin presents a fragment of the Black Ghost Knight's armor to Ange, completing the job. Other adventurers praise him for defeating the Black Ghost Knight, and note that Cashel and his gang are no longer a threat. Kelvin receives a special rank increase and personal thanks from the guild head. Melfina teases him about the girl at the front desk, while Gerard now regards Kelvin as his king. In front of him stands an older gentleman radiating calm authority, Leo, the head of the Parth Adventurers Guild. The man greets him warmly, remarking that the weather is perfect for an adventure. Kelvin agrees, but Leo reminds him that even adventurers need rest. Kelvin respectfully addresses him as the guild master, recognizing the reputation of the man before him. Leo congratulates him on his achievements, but then, with a knowing smile, asks a peculiar question: if Kelvin might be from another world. Kelvin's heart skips a beat as realization hits. His concealment had failed. Leo's powerful insight surpassed it completely. In that moment, Kelvin knows his secret has been uncovered. Leo continues the conversation, mentioning he already heard from Ange about the Cashel incident and Kelvin's victory over the Black Ghost Knight. From those feats, Leo deduced that Kelvin is a summoner. Gerard, hearing the exchange, gently reminds Kelvin that no secret lasts forever and encourages him to build trust with others. Melfina adds her own reassurance, promising support from within. Kelvin accepts that there is no point hiding the truth from someone who can see through him anyway. Curious, Kelvin asks why Leo hadn't intervened earlier, knowing Cashel's crimes. Leo admits he lacked the authority to move against a noble from a foreign militant nation without solid proof, something he had been working to obtain. Kelvin realizes he had simply beaten Leo to the punch. Leo laughs, relieved that he no longer has to handle the issue himself. Once their business shifts to more serious matters, Kelvin presses him for the real reason behind the meeting. Leo smiles, assuring him that he isn't an enemy. In fact, he wants to be an ally. He explains that he has met others from another world before, the heroes summoned by the Holy Empire of Doremus. Melfina interrupts within Kelvin's mind, confessing that she herself reincarnated those heroes. Kelvin is taken aback, but she promises to explain more later. Leo goes on to tell him that the priestess of Doremus had received a divine prophecy. The Demon King's revival was approaching. The recent surge of monster attacks, and even the Black Ghost Knight's unnatural strength, were signs of that return. He asks Kelvin to help protect the city of Parth, allowing the summoned heroes to focus on the greater threat. In return, Leo offers generous rewards, higher pay, rank advancement, full independence over job choices, and continued support. He also reveals that he understands Kelvin's caution. Hiding his summoner identity and his otherworldly origin was a smart move to avoid being drawn into political conflicts. Leo expresses confidence that Kelvin's current strength already matches that of the highest-ranking adventurers and promises to help him reach the top before the nobles try to claim him. Kelvin agrees, finding the arrangement beneficial and fair. Later, Kelvin returns to the inn, where the cheerful innkeeper Claire greets him. She congratulates him on his promotion to rank B, saying the whole town has been buzzing about his accomplishments. She insists on cooking him an extra dish to celebrate. Gerard teases Kelvin in his thoughts, joking about Claire being another possible romantic interest, but Kelvin quickly dismisses it, insisting she's simply the kind woman who runs his lodging. Melfina playfully chimes in, reminding him that she came first. As the day continues, Kelvin asks Melfina about the heroes she mentioned earlier. She explains that some time ago, she selected several promising young men and women from another world to reincarnate when the priestess of Doremus performed the summoning ritual. They should be strong by now, she adds casually, before dismissing the Demon King prophecy as a tired story she'd rather not deal with again. She encourages Kelvin to live his own life, free from the cliches of grand heroism. Soon after, Kelvin decides to prepare for the future. Retrieving his payment from recent quests, he announces that he's going shopping, not for weapons or supplies, but for a new companion. He intends to expand his party with someone who can support from behind the front lines. His battle with Gerard had been close, and he knows stronger challenges lie ahead. He specifically seeks someone who is untainted by prior masters and whose potential remains untouched. At the slave market, the atmosphere is tense. A merchant argues with a departing customer, frustrated that the man refused to buy a particular girl, calling her cursed. Kelvin's eyes fall on her, the same half-elf he'd seen earlier near the streets of Parth. Her expression is calm yet distant, as though she has long accepted her fate. The merchant explains that anyone who touches her is burned by a powerful curse. Despite this, Kelvin examines her aura and notices something. She still holds unspent potential. Melfina identifies the source of the curse as that of a fire dragon king, a powerful, ancient flame that no ordinary priest could dispel. Breaking it would require a sacred blessing beyond the reach of most humans. Kelvin, however, feels a strong resolve forming. Without hesitation, he purchases the girl, whose name is Ethel. For the first time, she thanks someone, her new master, her voice trembling between fear and disbelief. She introduces herself formally, explaining that she has been enslaved since birth and has no memory of her parents or the origin of her curse. Kelvin assures her silently, promising to help. Drawing upon his remaining strength, he performs a purification ritual that channels divine energy. Light surrounds Ethel, enveloping her completely. The oppressive heat that once burned anyone who touched her fades into warmth. The curse breaks. Tears form in her eyes as she feels the pain that has haunted her for so long finally lift. She bows deeply, vowing to serve Kelvin with loyalty and gratitude. Melfina, observing the moment from within, jokes that she'll let Ethel have him for now, until she herself can appear in the physical world. Kelvin ignores her teasing, focusing instead on Ethel's relief. That evening, Kelvin returns to the inn with Ethel. Claire welcomes them warmly, immediately offering to help the girl get cleaned up and find proper clothes. After a while, Claire returns with Ethel freshly bathed and dressed. The transformation is striking. Her half-elf features glow under the lantern light, her long hair tied neatly, her new clothes elegant yet modest. Claire proudly presents her to Kelvin. Ethel steps forward shyly. Kelvin acknowledges her beauty with quiet admiration. Grateful, Ethel promises to give her best to serve him from that day on. Claire prepares dinner, and Ethel insists on helping, eager to contribute. As they eat, Kelvin notes how Ethel's tears return, not from pain this time, but from joy. The warmth of a proper meal, the sound of laughter, and the scent of real food move her deeply. Later, Kelvin explains everything to her, about his summoner nature, about Melfina, Clotho, and Gerard. He asks her to keep these matters secret. Together with Melfina, Kelvin helps Ethel unlock her potential. He grants her growth that mirrors his own, ensuring she will learn quickly and develop freely. He lets her choose how to shape herself, a decision born from his belief that strength comes with self-direction. The night grows quiet, no extra rooms are available. There's only one bed, finding himself sharing a room with Ethel for the first night. He lies beside her, completely unable to sleep as he processes the day's events. A month has passed since Ethel joined Kelvin's party. They've been steadily working through quests, gaining experience and strength. Ethel focused her growth on archery and perception, perfecting her aim and awareness. She also learned sewing, turning her maid outfit into a durable combat uniform after many adjustments. Kelvin, meanwhile, began practicing blacksmithing. During the battle, Ethel unleashes a blazing technique that merges her archery and magic with elegant precision. Gerard can't help but marvel that someone dressed as a maid can fight with such power. Later, Ange announces another completed mission, 9 in a row. One more, and Kelvin will qualify for the rank-up exam. Ethel congratulates him warmly, while he notes her own rise through the ranks. He recalls her last test, where she defeated her examiner in seconds with a single perfect shot. Even the veteran in charge was shocked. Ange laughs, saying both Kelvin and Ethel are just far stronger than most. She then invites Ethel to visit a new sweets shop in town. Ethel agrees, and after some teasing, Kelvin decides to join them. He quietly worries that Melfina might scold him, as she left that morning to deliver a divine message. The next day, Kelvin meets Ange in the city. She's dressed casually, and he compliments her before she asks about Ethel. He explains that Ethel needed extra time to prepare. Ange smiles, saying Ethel must be putting serious effort into this. When Ethel finally appears, she shyly asks if her look seems strange. Both are speechless. She's radiant and confident, no longer the fragile girl from a month ago. In the sweets shop, they sit among cheerful crowd. They praise each other's choices until Ethel suddenly tries to feed Kelvin in public, catching him off guard. Ange teases him, implying it's nothing new at home. Confused, Ethel wonders if she's done something odd. Not wanting to lose, Ange also tries to feed him, and he refuses again. People around them whisper about a possible love triangle. Trying to calm things down, Kelvin suggests they take the sweets to go. Their exit is interrupted by a loud voice. A young noble shouts that commoners shouldn't display affection in public. His attendants order Kelvin to kneel. He arrogantly claims to be a prince from Trison and demands both women as compensation. Kelvin quickly immobilizes him without effort. Shocked, the prince admits he came to the city to find a strong adventurer to serve him, hoping to earn fame through their power since he has none of his own. Realizing Kelvin is the one he sought, he awkwardly tries to recruit him. Kelvin refuses, and the humiliated prince storms away. Ange laughs and thanks Kelvin for handling it coolly. The group decides to buy extra sweets before heading back, with Ange joking that she'll feed him next time. Far away, in the Grand Cathedral of the Holy Empire, Colette reports to the goddess Melfina. Melfina checks on the summoned heroes, pleased with their steady progress. She senses a dark presence rising from the western continent and orders that the heroes be sent there, and kept far from Parth. Once she vanishes, Colette informs the heroes of their new divine mission. That night, Kelvin and Ethel share a quiet moment before sleeping. She thanks him for saving her earlier, then hesitates before asking if he finds her attractive. Surprised, Kelvin listens as she confesses her feelings, saying he showed her warmth and kindness after years of being unable to touch anyone because of her curse. She admits she loves him as both her master and as a man. Moved, Kelvin tells her she's more beautiful than anyone he knows, but resolves to buy a house with separate rooms before temptation wins. Time passes as both continue to train. Kelvin's blacksmithing improves, letting him craft powerful weapons and armor. Ethel uses her sewing to create enchanted clothing for him. Melfina observes their rapid growth, noting that even the summoned heroes lag far behind. Soon, the guild summons Kelvin. Leo reports a strange discovery: a hidden chamber in a low-ranked dungeon containing a sealed demon. Even the weakest demons are extremely powerful, so Leo, the local commander, believes it could turn into a top-ranked quest. He also mentions the recent incident involving the arrogant prince, which has nearly become an international issue. Kelvin agrees to take the mission. At the dungeon entrance, Kelvin's group meets Ord, who explains that a barrier surrounds the sealed room, though its strength is uncertain. Melfina quietly notes that such barriers rarely hold against stronger demons. The party moves inside. The cave is silent and lifeless. No monsters, no movement. Kelvin senses two presences ahead. One is the demon, still sealed, and the other something far worse. In the final chamber, a tall demon waits, his aura heavy and dark. He greets them calmly. Behind him lies a chained girl, the daughter of the last demon king. The man reveals himself as a powerful demon who once served her father. He explains that he slaughtered everything nearby to lure strong humans, since only humans can break the seal. His plan is simple and horrifying. Devour Kelvin's party, gain human traits, unseal the girl, then consume her to gain her power and become the next demon king. He even calls the girl his daughter in spirit. Kelvin quickly understands the threat. This enemy's strength surpasses anything he has faced before. Yet instead of fear, he feels excitement, his old habit of smiling in the face of overwhelming danger. Gerard explains to Ethel that Kelvin always laughs when the odds are impossible, driven by the thrill of challenge itself. Melfina sighs, calling him hopeless, but knowing he won't back down. Kelvin faces Victor, calling him the strongest opponent he has ever met. His excitement grows uncontrollably, and Victor finds it fascinating. With a calm gesture, Victor summons an army of darkness. Kelvin calls it stylish, while Victor declares the numbers are now even. Victor challenges Kelvin to show his strength. The fight begins. Kelvin realizes the enemies are as strong as high-ranked monsters and decides to eliminate them before they reach his group. He attacks from a distance while Gerard charges forward, trading heavy blows. Melfina watches closely as they move in perfect rhythm. Victor studies their teamwork, impressed that they fight like seasoned warriors despite their youth. Kelvin challenges Victor directly, saying he seems unafraid. Victor confirms it and calls Kelvin a battle maniac. Kelvin admits he can't control his excitement, and Victor promises to wipe that grin from his face. Smoke fills the battlefield. Gerard tenses, but Kelvin stays calm, tracking Victor underground. Victor emerges from below, surprised that Kelvin sensed him. Gerard blocks his strike. Kelvin notices Victor's strong armor and realizes Gerard is at a disadvantage. Victor summons a faster fighter, and Kelvin responds by calling a slime-like ally. Physical attacks are useless, so he changes tactics and uses magic absorption. Kelvin stops him and creates a bright barrier that traps Victor for a moment. Gerard praises Kelvin's power, but Kelvin warns it won't last long. Victor breaks free, and Kelvin orders another round of attacks. Ethel appears from the shadows and fires flames at Victor, followed by Gerard's strike. Kelvin tells his team to retreat. Victor admits Kelvin is only the second person to wound him this much, and says peace has weakened his edge. When Kelvin asks if he's surrendering, Victor refuses, declaring the fight isn't over. Energy surges around him. Melfina warns Kelvin, who strikes before Victor finishes his move. Ethel joins, Gerard adds his strength, but Victor's power builds rapidly. Kelvin tells Gerard to raise his strength to full, even if it drains him. Victor announces the final round. Kelvin accepts, preparing his defense. Melfina urges Gerard to give everything. He swears a knight will not fall here. The ground shakes as both sides unleash their power. Ethel supports Gerard, and together they endure the impact. Kelvin commands another attack, and his creature strikes again. Victor questions Kelvin's cursed weapons, and Kelvin says they're failed creations that became useful. He then releases his final attack, combined with Ethel's flames. The light fades. Victor acknowledges defeat. Kelvin asks if he truly planned to harm the Demon King's daughter. Victor admits he lied to make Kelvin fight seriously. In truth, the Demon King Gustav entrusted his daughter, Sarah, to him hundreds of years ago. A flashback shows Sarah training in a mansion. Victor corrects her punches and tells her she relies too much on magic. She struggles, unsure how to channel it, and Victor comforts her, saying there's no need to rush since demons live long lives. She wonders if she'll always stay in the mansion while her father is away. Victor calls her Princess Sarah. Victor explains that Gustav hid her from enemies. Sarah lived alone, never leaving home. Then came the hero's attack. Victor fought to protect Gustav, but the Demon King ordered him to guard Sarah instead. Gustav sealed her away in a far land, protected by a spell only humans could break, ensuring she would survive in a peaceful future. When Gustav died, his magic sent Sarah away, leaving Victor behind to wait. Now Victor admits the plan failed. His last request is for Kelvin to let Sarah join his party. Kelvin is surprised, but Victor praises him as strong, trusted, and capable. He says Sarah has likely awakened and can hear them. Melfina confirms it. Kelvin offers to heal Victor if he joins them, but Victor refuses, saying he serves only the Demon King. He asks Kelvin one final favor, to show Sarah the world. Victor fades. Sarah's faint voice echoes, calling her father and Victor foolish. Kelvin silently promises to fulfill Victor's wish. Later, Ord meets Kelvin and asks how it went. Kelvin reports the demon is gone, but says it was close. He hands over proof for the guild and explains the demon was possessing a girl when sealed. Her horns and wings are hidden by a magical hairband, likely made by Gustav. Kelvin decides to take her back and asks Ord to handle the rest. Gerard jokes about nearly breaking apart after evolving. Kelvin scolds him, while Melfina notes his new form, a stronger version with restored armor and higher strength. Ethel admires the improvement, and Gerard proudly calls it a knight's reward. Kelvin mocks his earlier fear, and Gerard denies it. Sarah wakes and has calmed down. She asks if Kelvin truly wants the Demon King's daughter as a servant, warning it could cause trouble. Kelvin assures her she's safe. She praises his strength and realizes he isn't the hero. He says he's just an adventurer who likes to fight, and the group reacts at once. Sarah admits she's never left the mansion. Kelvin decides to show her their town, Parth. As they arrive, she's amazed by the people, the shops, and the noise. Ethel warns her to watch where she's going while Gerard explains everything she sees. Kelvin and Melfina watch her, relieved she's smiling. After the quest, Kelvin is promoted to rank A. The guild celebrates at the inn. Sarah is shy around the crowd. Ethel and Claire compete. Ord and Claire share their joy, and everyone teases Kelvin about Sarah. Time passes in laughter. Later, Sarah stands alone, thinking of Victor. She finds the world noisy but fun. A memory surfaces. Young Sarah and Victor by a puddle. She talks about the sea she read about in books, and Victor promises to show it to her one day. She splashes water, dreaming of seeing mountains, towns, and distant lands. Now, she smiles softly and promises to live her best life in the world her father and Victor left behind. A new day begins as Kelvin proudly announces that his blacksmithing and Ethel's sewing have reached the highest rank. The group gathers to see their new creations. Sarah receives a new weapon forged from Victor's armor, a way for her to carry his strength beside her. She also dons a new set of armor, its name evoking pride and power. Gerard receives a sword perfectly fitted to his hand, shaped to match the one he already knows. With their equipment prepared, Kelvin jokes that his and Ethel's work will be revealed in battle soon enough. Exhausted from days spent locked inside the forge, Kelvin finally asks for rest. Ethel offers to cook, but Kelvin's only craving is something from his old world, rice. He describes it with obsession, recalling its scent and taste until the others look at him in confusion. Soon after, the group sets out on their next journey. As they travel along a river road, Sarah marvels at the scenery and asks about fishing. Kelvin tells her they'll try it once they reach their next destination, the water country of Torridge. He reminds everyone that this journey has two purposes: to fulfill his promise to Victor by showing Sarah the world, and to reach the land said to grow a grain similar to the one he longs for. Gerard mentions that Melfina seems to have vanished again. Kelvin remembers why. He cannot summon her because of her divine nature. She once told him she could hide her power by sending out an avatar, one that looked exactly like her. She promised to return after adjusting it, joking as she left that he could fall for her twice if he wanted. Kelvin concludes she's likely traveling somewhere unseen once more. As the group travels, Sarah spots a ship and becomes excited, wanting to board it immediately. Kelvin laughs it off, saying there'll be time later. But Gerard notices something strange, hidden eyes watching them from afar. Kelvin confirms it. A group suddenly blocks the road. At its front stands a woman flanked by rough-looking bandits. She calls herself the leader of a notorious thief gang known across Torridge. Their reputation precedes them, yet Kelvin sees only weak opponents. He estimates their power and assigns Sarah to deal with them, cautioning her not to go overboard. She accepts with confidence. The thieves mock her, thinking she's an easy target. They charge. Sarah meets their attacks head-on, her strength overwhelming them even when she holds back. Their leader shouts in disbelief as her companions fall one after another. Sarah quickly finishes the fight, noting how much stronger she's become since her awakening, empowered by her new bond with Kelvin. The last remaining thief screams the name of their powerful boss, boasting that he's far stronger. Sarah simply smiles. With the threat cleared, the party continues to Torridge. The port city opens before them, a place of water, bridges, and ocean wind, a sight that reminds Kelvin of old Japan. For Sarah, it's her first time seeing the sea. She gazes at the endless water, quietly recalling the promise Victor once made to teach her how to swim. She asks Kelvin to be her teacher now. Ethel also shows interest, and Kelvin wishes they could start right away, though their supplies still need unloading. At the Adventurers Guild of Torridge, the guild master, Mist, greets Kelvin and thanks him for helping capture a leader of the thief band. She reveals that Leo, the guild master from Trison, has already told her much about Kelvin's strength. The two guild masters were once adventuring partners, with Leo known for analyzing everyone he met. Mist shares troubling news. The thieves group has returned, operating in secret, kidnapping civilians and selling them as slaves under the protection of a national hero named Kristoff. Acting against him, Mist warns, could spark an international conflict. Sarah grows frustrated that they must stand by while knowing the truth. Kelvin quietly calculates Kristoff's power. It doesn't impress him. When he senses several strong individuals nearby, he realizes the heroes from another world have arrived in town. Smiling, he decides to let them handle the trouble. Justice will take care of itself. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the heroes' party. Their leader, Toya, asks the guild master about a nearby hideout. Though one of his teammates argues they should stay on mission, Toya insists on helping the people. Mist remembers Kelvin's request, to let the heroes fight the thieves so that the nations could not retaliate. But Kelvin had also joked that it was disappointing not to get any action himself. Elsewhere, inside the thieves' base, two captives, Luca and Ellie, are trapped in a dim room. A cruel bandit enters, taunting them with malicious delight. Before he can harm them, Gerard bursts in and ends it swiftly. Kelvin follows, freeing the captives. They thank their rescuers, relieved to be safe again. In another chamber, Kristoff, the hero of Trison, discusses the situation with his subordinates. They worry about the consequences if their secret slave operation is exposed. One is restless for battle, another fearful of their government abandoning them. Kristoff remains calm, believing his scout will return soon with answers. But his scout is suddenly thrown unconscious into the room, a clear message. Kelvin steps forward, facing Kristoff's group. When Kristoff demands to know who he is, Kelvin simply states that he's not here for a fight, only to clean up the mess left behind. At the same time, the heroes group prepares their own assault. They reach the edge of the enemy hideout, noticing an eerie absence of guards or resistance. Their detection spells sense many people deeper inside, but no danger nearby. Suspicious but determined, they push forward. They enter a chamber where a big slime creature stands guard over the rescued captives. Mistaking it for a monster, Toya nearly attacks, but the captives stop him. They explain that this slime belongs to the adventurers who saved them. Realizing the misunderstanding, Toya apologizes and introduces himself as the hero of Doremus. The captives, grateful and emotional, tell him the adventurers still need help. Dozens of enemies remain, including powerful leaders. The heroes move onward to the final room. The doors creak open to reveal devastation. Fallen adventurers, shattered weapons, and the marks of a fierce battle. Toya's expression hardens as he realizes they've arrived too late. Toya, the hero of Doremus, stands alongside Setsuna, Nana, and Miyabi, facing a man they believe to be the leader of the Black Wind Thieves. The man, Kelvin, greets them casually, dismissing the adventurers who fell before him as nothing but noise. The heroes prepare to deliver justice, their mission clear: defeat the bandit boss and protect the people. Kelvin, amused by their determination, proposes a wager, a battle between him and the four heroes. Whoever loses will grant one wish to the victor. Though Miyabi senses the unfair balance in their favor, Toya insists on fighting, confident that they can win together. As the heroes prepare, Kelvin's team gathers to discuss their plan. Ethel confirms that if Kelvin wins, his wish will force the heroes to reveal the truth about the slave trade, exposing the corruption behind Kristoff and preventing their protection under Trison. Gerard questions why Kelvin went through all this trouble only to fight the heroes himself. Both he and Sarah call him what he is, someone addicted to battle. Kelvin admits that he wants to test new strategies against group opponents and experiment with a new piece of equipment that allows him to copy his opponent's abilities. The battle begins. The heroes summon elemental spirits of light, wind, water, and shadow to aid them. Toya charges ahead, assuming Kelvin is a spellcaster. Behind him, Nana summons her dragon, which unleashes a blast of fire. Kelvin reacts instantly, darting aside at blinding speed. In a flash, he reaches Miyabi and copies her analytical ability as well. The heroes are stunned by his speed. Toya tries to strike, but Kelvin blocks easily. moving with the strength and precision of a martial expert. Setsuna joins the attack, cutting through the air with her blade, but Kelvin raises a shimmering wall of defense. Setsuna's next strike slices through it completely, shocking Gerard, who recognizes the danger of her technique. Kelvin counters, forcing the heroes to retreat and reassess their plan. Catching their breath, Setsuna chastises Toya for charging in alone. She reminds him of the bond they share since being summoned to this world, that they stand as heroes together. Toya finally acknowledges her words, and the team renews their resolve. They launch a coordinated assault. A flash of light blinds Kelvin while waves of cold air rush toward him, freezing his movements. A surge of power follows from Miyabi's side, and for a brief moment, Kelvin is overwhelmed. Toya and Setsuna seize the opening, diving in for the finishing blow. But in a burst of raw force, Kelvin breaks free, shattering the frost and clearing his vision. The heroes recoil as he stands unharmed. He analyzes their teamwork calmly, pointing out their flaws. Their coordination, though strong, lacks follow-through and precision. He sees every weakness, every missed opportunity. Toya grips his weapons tighter, realizing that Kelvin is not mocking them, he's teaching them. The heroes shift to full strength. Toya draws upon his divine power. Nana channels her most powerful freezing spell. Miyabi calls forth a monstrous creature of darkness, and Setsuna prepares for a cutting strike. The battlefield erupts into chaos, ice forming around Kelvin as shadow and light collide. Kelvin, thinking several steps ahead, conjures two towering guardians to intercept the attacks. He divides his focus, his thoughts moving at superhuman speed, analyzing each opponent's movement, timing, and magic pattern. He finds the weak point and acts. A radiant surge bursts from him, breaking the ice spell entirely. The heroes look on in disbelief as the frozen pillars crumble to dust. Kelvin steps forward through the mist, calm and confident, explaining, without words, that he had already deciphered their magic before it even finished forming. Setsuna lunges again, faster this time, her technique sharper and refined from experience within the same fight. Kelvin notes her rapid adaptation, but remains unshaken. With a sweeping gesture, he seals Nana's defenses, turning the tide completely. A final strike follows, a wave of overwhelming force that knocks the entire hero team to the ground. The battlefield falls silent. Dust settles around the fallen heroes as Kelvin looks down at them. His expression is almost disappointed. He tells Toya, not with mockery but with cold truth, that if he truly wants to change the world, he must become much stronger. When Toya regains consciousness, his body aches, but his mind lingers on the battle, and on the voice he heard before waking. Nearby, Kelvin speaks softly with Luca, the rescued girl, and a small slime companion. He explains that he isn't a thief or a villain, but an adventurer. Luca confirms that he was the one who saved them from captivity. Setsuna, now recovered, pieces everything together. The fight wasn't random, it was deliberate. Kelvin had staged the battle to test their abilities and use the outcome to achieve a greater goal. Toya understands now. This wasn't just about strength, it was about strategy, morality, and resolve. Accepting his defeat, Toya stands and acknowledges Kelvin's superiority. In an unexpected gesture of respect, he addresses him as his teacher. The wager must now be fulfilled. Kelvin's wish will be granted. Next day, Luca waves goodbye, her small voice carrying gratitude, while Ellie offers her thanks to Kelvin. Mist, from the Adventurers Guild, assures Kelvin that the rescued captives will be safely returned home and identified with the help of Torridge. She adds that Kristoff and the rest of the Black Wind will face intense questioning about their ties to Trison. Kelvin thanks Mist for the cooperation before turning away, casually remarking that he has another kind of game to attend. The scene shifts to a bright training ground where the heroes, Toya and his companions, face off against a massive sea creature with tentacles and electric charge. Setsuna struggles to land a hit while Kelvin instructs the team calmly from behind. He directs the rear line, Miyabi and Nana, to watch closely and use the environment to turn the fight in their favor. As the battle continues, Sarah watches with amusement while Setsuna warns the others of incoming danger. Through coordinated effort and teamwork, they manage to bring the creature down. Once the dust settles, Kelvin congratulates them and calls for lunch. The group gathers around Ethel's cooking, laughter mixing with exhaustion. Even as they eat, the conversation turns to the increasing power of dungeon bosses since the Demon King's revival. The heroes recall their summoning to this world by the priestess, their confusion, and the goddess who appeared before them. Kelvin listens closely, realizing they were brought here from another world, just like him. Curious, he asks what they would do if they encountered an even stronger dungeon boss, one beyond their ability to win against. Toya admits they would retreat and live to fight another day. Kelvin smiles, quietly approving of that answer. Suddenly, Sarah shouts that she's caught something while fishing. The ground trembles as a massive dragon bursts from the water, roaring with fury. Its power crackles through the air, a rank S boss awakened. The group braces themselves. Toya stands ready, but declares he won't risk his friends' lives for a reckless battle. Instead, he vows to train until they can face such power safely. Kelvin nods with satisfaction, calling it a passing grade. Then, stretching his shoulders, he declares it's time for a bit of post-lunch exercise. Days later, Toya's team prepares to depart. Kelvin offers them farewell gifts, matching pendants he crafted himself, meant to bring good fortune. The heroes express their gratitude, promising to grow stronger before their next meeting. As they leave, Toya reflects on Kelvin's strength, still awed by how effortlessly he and his party defeated a rank S monster. Ethel asking what's the pendants for. Kelvin explains the pendants has small hidden feature he hopes the heroes never need to use. Sarah arrives with the messenger from Guild. Kelvin realizes this must be the meeting he's been expecting since their arrival in Torridge. He recalls their earlier victories, the bandits, the rank S monster, and declares that the country's ruler must finally want to see them. The party soon stands before a grand castle. Kelvin notes its design, the clean lines, the familiar architecture, something distinctly Japanese. Gerard explains that Torridge's first ruler came from another world as well, which explains the castle's unique style. Inside, they meet Queen Tsubaki Fujiwara, the nation's current ruler. She thanks Kelvin for destroying the Black Wind and clearing the Dragon Marine caves, asking him to raise his head since she dislikes formalities. She explains that although their deeds deserve public celebration, Trison's involvement forces secrecy. To repay their efforts, she offers Kelvin anything he desires. Instead of power or gold, he asks for the right to purchase a rare crop exclusive to Torridge, one he has long been eager to taste, rice. The court is surprised, and Tsubaki laughs at his simplicity, calling him a fascinating man. Amused, she decides he doesn't need to buy it at all, promising to send him as much as he wants for free. A feast follows, where Kelvin and his companions enjoy the unfamiliar yet comforting taste of home. Ethel collects recipes, Gerard enjoys sake with Sarah, and Kelvin feels content, knowing he's finally found something that reminds him of his world. Days pass peacefully. Queen Tsubaki invites them to remain in Torridge. During one meal, she joins Kelvin and Ethel, complimenting the maid's mastery of Japanese cooking. She teases Kelvin about hiring his entire group to serve under her, or at least keeping him as her personal caretaker. He politely refuses, explaining they must return to Parth to investigate new monster sightings. She laughs off the rejection, admiring his focus, and offers to send them home through a teleport gate. The group follows her to a massive circular structure filled with glowing patterns. Tsubaki explains that such travel requires great magical power and administrative approval. Kelvin realizes their guild master had already granted it long ago, but never mentioned it. As the gate hums to life, Tsubaki bids them farewell, inviting them back anytime. The group steps into the light and vanishes, returning home. In Parth, Claire greets Kelvin warmly, joking about his rumored connection with Torridge's ruler. Kelvin laughs it off, insisting he's happier as a free adventurer. After some rest, he reveals his next goal, buying a house. Soon after, his party gathers at their new home. It's spacious and welcoming, with enough rooms for everyone. Excitement fills the air as they explore, Sarah racing for the best room, Gerard inspecting the basement, Ethel checking the kitchen. Kelvin chooses his favorite feature, the bath, finally able to enjoy one whenever he likes. Two familiar faces appear, Luca and Ellie. They've come to work as servants, eager to repay his kindness. Kelvin gladly welcomes them into his household. Night falls. The house is quiet, the air warm from the bath steam. Kelvin senses someone's presence and greets the figure emerging from the shadows. It's Melfina, returned at last, now able to appear in the physical world. She apologizes for the delay, her voice soft but confident. Kelvin assures her it's fine, she's finally here. As they speak, the familiar spark between them reignites, a mix of warmth and destiny. Melfina smiles, radiant and alive, while Kelvin feels a long-awaited peace. The night closes on his quiet words, acknowledging how perfectly she fits his world. Peaceful morning. Melfina sits at the dining table, smiling as she compliments Ethel's cooking. She teases that she never imagined that finding Kelvin would be this hard since he no longer stayed at the inn. Kelvin notes she could have just asked around through her servants, but Melfina insists she wanted a warm, emotional reunion, or maybe just to surprise him. Melfina introduces herself, claiming she was summoned only last night. Sarah acknowledges her carefully, aware of her connection to the Demon King. Melfina, understanding that Sarah might hold complicated feelings toward her, but Sarah calmly dismisses the idea, saying the past isn't Melfina's fault. Melfina thanks her for the acceptance. Gerard, trying to lighten the mood, jokes that he thought his master had already brought home another woman. Kelvin protests immediately, but Melfina corrects them both, proudly declaring herself Kelvin's wife. Afterward, Kelvin talks with Melfina about her name. He wonders if calling her by it openly might be dangerous, since she's well known as a goddess in Doremus. She agrees, telling him to call her Mel instead, and Ethel promises to let everyone else know. Melfina then announces that Kelvin deserves a reward for successfully summoning her, a divine blessing, something granted only to those who perform great feats. Kelvin listens as she describes the gift's power. Once a month, he will be protected from any wound that would otherwise be fatal. The second effect, even more important, the ability to summon heroes. To the new training ground, Sarah and Melfina spar with overwhelming energy. Sarah's attacks are fierce and relentless, and Melfina matches her move for move. Luca cheers them on until Gerard tells her to stay warm and not catch a chill. The clash ends with Sarah narrowly taking the upper hand, though both fighters seem satisfied. Melfina compliments Sarah's growth, and Sarah admits Melfina's power is greater than she expected. Gerard comments that it's rare to see them so motivated, and Sarah explains they were competing for the right to sleep next to Kelvin. Later, steam rises in the mansion's bath. Sarah relaxes in the warm water, saying it feels incredible after their fight. Melfina agrees, saying it melts away her stress, while Ethel checks to make sure no one is still sore. Melfina mentions Kelvin seemed lost in thought lately, and Ethel explains he's been thinking deeply about what Melfina told him. Elsewhere, Kelvin stands near the pond while Melfina approaches holding a tray of sweets. She senses he's curious about something and encourages him to ask. Kelvin wants to understand why heroes are needed. Melfina's expression turns serious. She explains that the birth of a demon king is a repeating cycle, something that cannot be stopped, only confronted. Each demon king is born with a power that amplifies their malice until they lose all control, and it makes them nearly impossible to harm. Because their power defies this world's natural laws, the only beings who can truly fight them are those from another world. Their strength operates differently. It can pierce even the demon king's invincibility. Kelvin realizes that his own power shares that quality, meaning he could harm a demon king as well. But he questions the morality of dragging people from another world into this one. Melfina explains that there are two ways to bring souls across worlds. One that transfers a living person, and another that rebuilds a body from the soul of someone already dead. Kelvin learns he was brought through the second method, his body remade entirely in this world. She tells him that teleporting living people is easier for summoning groups, while reincarnating one person requires far more energy, but grants complete freedom over their new form and abilities. Kelvin asks whether his current appearance is the same as before, and Melfina confirms it is. Finally, she tells him that if he feels uneasy about summoning living people, reincarnation is the better path. Sometime later, Kelvin stands surrounded by his companions. Melfina watches as he announces his decision. He'll perform the reincarnation. Ethel prepares the MP potion. When Kelvin is ready, he begins the ritual. The room glows with light as he pours nearly all his energy into the summoning, leaving only a trace of power behind. The process takes time, longer than expected, as the chosen soul hesitates to select its new form. Finally, Melfina announces that the choice has been made. A small figure appears in the light. It's a child, a young girl with black hair and bright eyes. She introduces herself politely, and Kelvin greets her gently. She explains that she was told by an angel she would be coming to another world. Kelvin admits he's the one who summoned her and apologizes for bringing her here for his own reasons. She thanks him anyway. The girl soon grows sleepy and collapses into a light nap. Melfina explains that reincarnation takes a heavy toll and assures Kelvin that, despite her appearance, this child is the best possible result. Later, the girl awakens. She runs through the grass, laughing in wonder at the feeling of wind. Kelvin joins her, watching quietly as she enjoys her first moments of freedom. They talk briefly, and she shares memories of her past life, a life spent sick and confined, where her only joy came from reading stories of adventure. Now she can finally live one. Kelvin tells her she can choose her own path, but she insists she wants to travel with him. He agrees, touched by her determination, and decides to introduce her as his younger sister from a faraway land. She accepts the idea cheerfully, calling him Brother Kel. Kelvin asks her to choose a new name for her new life, and she selects one that once belonged to her favorite imaginary hero, Ryan. Kelvin welcomes her warmly. Kelvin wakes up in bed, noticing Melfina and Sarah sleeping beside him. Melfina mumbles in her sleep, while Sarah sleeps peacefully, smiling like a content child. There's also Ryan. He wonders if it's normal for sisters to sneak into their brother's bed, but decides she's adjusting well to their life together. Later, Kelvin, Ryan, Ellie, and Luca arrive at the edge of the dark purple forest. Ryan is full of excitement, treating the forest like an adventure. Kelvin tells her not to wander too far. Ellie asks why she and Luca are part of this trip, and Kelvin explains that he wants them to gain experience, just in case something happens back home. With only golems guarding the mansion, he wants everyone to be ready. Luca nervously admits she's never fought a monster before, but Kelvin reassures her that it's fine. He instructs the group, Ryan, Ellie, and Luca, to stay near Kelvin. His skill will share experience points among all members, even if they don't fight directly. Sarah mentions that by morning, their stats should improve enough to hold their own in real combat. Then she cheerfully suggests a race between herself, Gerard, and Clotho to see who can hunt the most monsters before time runs out. Kelvin sighs and warns them not to go overboard. Not long after, a sound echoes. Luca asks what it means, and Melfina explains it signals a level up. Kelvin confirms the skill is working and tells everyone to check their stats. Ryan is shocked at how fast she's leveling. Ethel suddenly warns that a shadow wolf is approaching. Kelvin stops her from attacking and lets it come closer. He asks Ryan if she likes dogs. She says she's never touched one, but thinks she does. The shadow wolf emerges from the mist. Kelvin uses air pressure to subdue it and completes a contract, taming the creature. Ryan and Luca are thrilled, especially when the wolf lets them pet its fluffy fur. Ethel then informs Kelvin that Ord's party is approaching from behind. Kelvin finds it strange how crowded the forest has become. Ord arrives, surprised to see Kelvin's group there. Kelvin casually says they're having a picnic. Ord explains his team is taking an exam to reach rank B, which requires defeating a certain number of monsters within a time limit. When he notices Kelvin's group of women and girls, he jokes that Kelvin's new party looks too perfect. Kelvin clarifies that Ellie and Luca are maids, not adventurers, and introduces Ryan as his little sister. Ord's teammates, clearly jealous, grumble about Kelvin's luck. Ord tries to calm them down. They ignore him and rush off into the woods. A moment later, Sarah and Gerard return, proudly saying they passed Ord's team earlier. Kelvin explains what's happening, and both Sarah and Gerard suddenly look guilty. When Kelvin asks what they did, Ethel uses her far-seeing ability and reports that there are no monsters left in the entire forest. Sarah and Gerard sheepishly admit they killed them all. Kelvin apologizes to Ord, who laughs it off, impressed by Kelvin's overwhelmingly strong team. He remarks that Kelvin's group is powerful enough to take a rank S exam. Kelvin finds that strange since he never officially applied for one. Ethel points out that every time he's been promoted, it's been through special cases, so this might be his first proper test. Meanwhile, Ryan names the shadow wolf Alex. Kelvin cleans the wolf's fur, making it shine. Ryan happily declares that Alex is now part of their family. She reveals a skill that lets her understand what Alex is saying. Gerard soon calls her for sword training. Night at the mansion, Sarah senses movement outside. She warns Kelvin that several people are surrounding the house, around 14 in total. Kelvin realizes they're intruders. He quietly checks with Ethel and Melfina, making sure they're safe in bed, while Gerard guards Ellie and Luca's room. Using far-seeing, Kelvin observes the attackers. Their leader seems stronger than the rest, but still poses no real threat. Kelvin decides this is the perfect test for Ryan. He assigns her and Alex to handle the intruders, telling her this will be her first real mission. She should attack anyone who makes it past the gate. To support her, Clotho creates a small copy of itself to assist. Kelvin shares information about enemy movements directly to Ryan through his network. Before sending her out, he hands Ryan a new weapon, a reforged mithril sword crafted from an old blade he once earned. He calls it her first weapon and sends her off, proud to see his family's hero take her first step. Outside, the bandits discuss their plan. They believe the mansion's master was allied with the heroes who captured Lord Kristoff and must be eliminated before he becomes a problem for Tryson. Ryan stands her ground, determined to protect her new home. With Alex beside her, she strikes first. Inside, Sarah observes the fight through her link with Kelvin, noting that Ryan's form still needs polish, but her instincts are strong. With training, she could master even higher sword techniques. Kelvin agrees, saying that at this rate, none of the bandits will make it to the mansion. Soon, Ryan reports that all enemies have been defeated. Kelvin praises her and orders Clotho to clean up the area. He decides to heal the bandits just enough to survive before turning them over to the guild. As Ryan and Alex rest, Kelvin moves to deal with a few remaining bandits hiding nearby. The survivor panic and try to escape, realizing their mission has failed. But Kelvin appears behind him, calm and composed, reminding them that none of them are leaving. Far away, inside Tryson Castle, Emperor Zell convenes a meeting at the round table. The generals gather: Asgrad, Tristan, Dan, and Shatora. Zell opens the session by addressing the chaos caused by Kristoff's capture. Asgrad mentions that the plan in Torridge was Tristan's idea. Tristan brushes it off, blaming others for the failure. Dan angrily rebukes him, saying the incident exposed the nation's corruption. He warns that Gon, Torridge, and Doremus are forming an alliance. Zell confirms their nation is in danger. Tristan laughs, claiming they should go to war while the others are still weak from peace. Shatora argues it's too early, warning that the other nations aren't as fragile as Tristan believes. Asgrad sides with Tristan, eager to test the Dragoon's new power. Dan stands firm against the idea, creating a tie in the votes. Emperor Zell decides the final decision will depend on the 5th general and orders Clive Therese to join the meeting. Elsewhere, Dan's son, Jean, rushes to deliver the message. He finds Clive at the Magic Knight's headquarters and delivers the summons. Clive smiles and agrees to come, asking only one strange question in return: whether he looks pretty. Kelvin and his team move swiftly through the Crest Forest in southwest Gon, heading toward an elf village. The air is quiet, heavy with tension. Ethel feels a strange familiarity with the forest, and Kelvin suggests her half-elf blood might explain it. Sarah finds that odd, remembering that elves were said to live only on the western continent. Melfina clarifies that some migrated east years ago and now live under Gon's protection. As they travel, Kelvin recalls his earlier meeting with Leo, the guildmaster. Leo had warned him about Tryson's growing movements, its assassins, the Black Wind, and the border skirmishes spreading across the continent. Kelvin concluded that Tryson was testing its strength, gathering slaves, and preparing for war. Leo told him to stay alert, and then revealed a special assignment from King Leonhardt Gon himself. This mission, Leo explained, would double as Kelvin's Rank S promotion exam. Kelvin shared that to reach Rank S, one must earn the approval of 2 rulers. Queen Tsubaki of Torridge and King Leonhardt had both agreed. The group learned their task: protect an elven village from an unidentified Rank S monster. Kelvin suspected Tryson was involved, but told his team to go all out. When the party reached the village, a group of elves greeted them cautiously. Kelvin introduced himself as an adventurer under orders from King Leonhardt. After verifying the letter, the elves accepted his arrival. Their elder, Nelraz, apologized for the misunderstanding and welcomed them. As the party exchanged greetings, Nelraz suddenly froze upon seeing Ethel, calling her by another name, Lummel. Kelvin asked about the mistake, curious if it could be linked to Ethel's past. Nelraz explained that 20 years earlier, their village on the western continent had been attacked by the Fire Dragon King, who demanded the elf that had humiliated him. Over half the village died before Lummel offered herself to save them. The dragon accepted, taking her away as his bride. Years later, Lummel's body was found in the forest, and the elves fled east, fearing the dragon's return. The story left the group silent. Sarah observed how closely Ethel resembled Lummel, suggesting a connection. Gerard wondered if Ethel might be the child of Lummel and the dragon, but Melfina denied the possibility, Dragon blood would overwhelm any other lineage. Kelvin thought it still possible that Lumo was Ethel's mother. Nelrys apologized for not knowing more. Ethel thanked him kindly, admitting she had no memories of her parents, but was content with the family she had now, her comrades and her master. Kelvin then brought the focus back to their mission. Nelrys described how a strange new monster had appeared with its servants, kidnapping elves and vanishing into the forest. The barrier that should have hidden their location had been bypassed. Kelvin deduced the enemy had a way to nullify it. The attacks came in small waves, targeting individuals instead of destroying the village, an odd behavior for monsters. The elves and gaunt soldiers had tried to fight back, but the enemy's strength was overwhelming. Kelvin promised to protect the village and asked permission to make some renovations. Nelrys agreed. Kelvin immediately began strengthening the defenses. High above, Kelvin built an invisible watchtower made of adamantine rampart. Melfina's blue magic cloaked it in a false fog, and moats filled with Sarah's enhanced water magic surrounded the village. Ethel took her position at the tower's peak with her new weapon, a silent black bow that could strike from anywhere. Kelvin gave the command to test it, and Ethel began firing. Down below, a Tricen force advanced through the forest. Their commander reminded them to stay alert for ambushes. They were part of General Tristan's plan, to bait Gone with false intelligence and eliminate whoever came to investigate. The soldiers also carried a special collar designed to restrain even rank S targets. Without warning, arrows began to strike. One soldier fell, then another. The commander was confused. There was no sound and no sign of an archer. Panic spread through the ranks as they realized they were being hunted by an unseen enemy. At the top of the tower, Kelvin calmly observed the chaos through magical vision, giving orders to Ethel. He told her to spare the high-ranking officer for interrogation. Ethel acknowledged the command, releasing another precise shot. Kelvin praised her aim and noted how well the new weapon worked. Meanwhile, Gerard stayed on defense, ready to respond if anything reached the walls. Sarah teased him to take it easy while Ryan and Melfina prepared to move. Kelvin reminded everyone their goal was to protect the village, not to destroy the forest. Then he gave the order to begin the full operation. Soon after, a surviving Tricen soldier rushed to his superior. Their units were collapsing. He reported that the attackers weren't Gone soldiers at all, but a small adventuring group, 3 women and a shadow wolf. The vice commander realized they were facing the same group that had appeared in the forest earlier. He ordered the release of their secret weapon. Ryan appeared at the front, standing calmly before the panicked enemy. Melfina thanked the vice commander for revealing their position. The ground shook as the soldiers unleashed their hidden monster, a massive creature called the Gigant Lord. Its shadow swallowed the trees. Ryan stared up at it, impressed by its sheer size. Melfina instructed her to take it on alone. Ryan hesitated but then steeled herself, determined to prove she wasn't just the little sister everyone needed to protect. This would be her test. As the monster charged, Ryan dodged and struck back, but its body barely reacted. She realized one clean hit would end her. Summoning all her courage, she called on Clotho and Alex for support. The vice commander mocked her, believing no blade could harm a rank S beast. But Ryan's energy surged. She drew both her swords, Calidbalg and the false holy sword Will, dual-wielding instinctively. The vice commander froze in disbelief. Only a hero could use that technique. Ryan and Alex moved together in perfect rhythm, their strikes fusing into one motion. Her blades glowed as she unleashed a powerful edge that split through the giant's armor. The monster roared, its form twisting into its true state. Flames erupted around it. Sarah watched eagerly, wanting to fight, but Kelvin reassured Ethel that Ryan would be fine. The Gigant Lord opened its furnace-like core, releasing purgatorial fire, but Ryan pressed through, claiming the flames were weaker than Ethel's. With one final strike, she shattered the monster completely. Silence fell across the battlefield. The vice commander could only stare, realizing a single girl had destroyed Tricen's elite unit. Ryan raised her sword proudly, declaring the mission complete. Melfina praised her growth, calling her a true adventurer. As the dust settled, a new figure appeared, Clive Therese of Tricen. He expressed surprise that his attack hadn't killed Ethel. Kelvin turned sharply, recognizing the danger. Ethel calls out for her master as the enemy general steps forward, a young man with a smug grin named Clive. He shows clear interest in Ethel, admiring her beauty and making an inappropriate offer. His arrogance fills the air, and his attention shifts toward Kelvin, mocking him as a nobody who dares to interfere. Kelvin faces him calmly, understanding Clive's intentions and seeing through his charm. The tension spikes when Clive reveals himself as a high-ranking general of the Tricen Magic Knights, boasting about his strength and experience. Kelvin, unshaken, warns him to stay away from Ethel. The remark draws mockery from Clive, who laughs at the seriousness in Kelvin's voice. As their confrontation begins, the battlefield quiets. Kelvin studies Clive's abilities, realizing his power relies heavily on a unique talent for manipulation and charm. Clive, curious, notices Kelvin's ability to see through his concealment and starts to suspect that Kelvin may also be a reincarnated individual like himself. Kelvin tells Ethel to retreat within the walls, preparing for a direct clash. She nods and runs to safety, leaving the two men alone. Clive tries to stop her, but Kelvin interrupts, focusing entirely on the fight. His energy surges as he creates several dark blades, releasing them toward his opponent. Clive braces, hiding behind a swirling barrier of wind. The attacks hit but do not break through, and he laughs, claiming that no attack, physical or magical, can pass his defense. Kelvin realizes the challenge before him and adjusts his strategy, summoning several armored golems to join the battle. The massive figures march forward, each moving with precision. Clive mocks them, but sends his controlled allies to engage. Kelvin orders his golems not to kill, only to restrain, determined to free those under Clive's influence. With his party safe and the battlefield set, Kelvin and Clive face off one-on-one. The air shakes as they trade attacks, Kelvin's precision against Clive's speed. Clive praises Kelvin reluctantly, surprised by his ability to keep up. Their movements blur in flashes of power as both push their limits. Kelvin maintains control, while Clive becomes more unhinged, enjoying the destruction. When his attacks strike his own allies, he shows no remorse. Kelvin is disgusted by his disregard for life. Clive confesses that this world, unlike the one before, gives him complete freedom, and that his strength allows him to do whatever he wants. He boasts of his reincarnation gift, calling it the ultimate cheat. Kelvin listens silently before calling his opponent pathetic, a man obsessed with himself and blind to others. Clive grows furious and unleashes another surge of energy. Their magic collides. A moment later, Clive's face is struck and scarred by Kelvin's attack. Shock and rage twist his expression as he promises vengeance. Kelvin's power builds as he prepares his next move, drawing on every ounce of his strength. Clive screams that he will destroy everything and reveals his ultimate spell, a tempest barrier of chaotic energy that rips through the battlefield. Kelvin responds by calling forth his strongest weapon, a dark staff pulsating with energy. He thinks briefly about the forest, regretting the damage their clash may cause, but knows there is no other choice. He channels his energy into a single devastating attack. The air cracks as both unleash their spells. The explosion consumes the clearing, and the shockwave rolls through the trees. When the smoke clears, Clive barely alive, his legs ruined. He collapses, defeated, and Kelvin walks toward him. But before he can finish it, another figure appears, Tristan, the general of the mixed demon-beast army. Tristan introduces himself calmly, revealing that he orchestrated the attack on the elven village. Kelvin demands Clive's surrender, but Tristan refuses, declaring that Clive still holds value. Both generals vanish, retreating from the battlefield. Kelvin's allies regroup as the forest falls silent. He checks on everyone, ensuring no one was seriously hurt. They confirm that the enemy was destroyed and the village saved. Nelraz, the elven elder, thanks them deeply and declares a celebration in their honor. Sarah, Ryan, and Melfina, each wanting to earn Kelvin's praise. Their playful rivalry fills the air with laughter. Ryan proudly declares that she defeated a massive monster, earning Kelvin's gentle praise for her hard work. Elsewhere, deep within Tricen territory, Clive awakens in agony. Tristan stands nearby, cold and analytical. Clive's legs are healed, but his body trembles. Tristan explains that he will be used as a test subject for cursed weapons, hundreds of them. Clive pleads, but his cries are ignored as the experiment begins. Back in the elven village, peace slowly returns. Ethel finds Kelvin alone and approaches him. He admits he was thinking about how fortunate he has been since arriving in this world, grateful for his companions and determined to grow stronger to protect them. He resolves never to live with regret again. Ethel shows him a small item given by the elder, something that once belonged to her mother, Lummel. She expresses gratitude for meeting everyone and for discovering her heritage. Kelvin tells her it suits her perfectly, and she promises to serve him always. Kelvin smiles, happy to have her by his side. The group reunites, still cheerful from the party. Soon, a visitor appears, the Beast King of Gone, Leonhardt, now in disguise. Kelvin recognizes him immediately. Leonhardt commends his efforts and announces that Kelvin has officially passed the Rank S exam. His companions cheer loudly. Leonhardt explains that a grand ceremony will take place in 4 days, where Kelvin will face other Rank S adventurers in mock battles to celebrate his promotion. Kelvin's eyes light up with excitement at the prospect of stronger opponents. His team sighs, realizing his obsession with battle hasn't changed. The war may not be over, but for now, they stand united, stronger than ever,